Hi, welcome to the LiveLeanPro podcast show. My name is Glen Jarvis, and I'm super excited to launch it. Literally our first show. So this is our first ground-up show from the bottom, and LiveLeanPro is a very exciting proposition. We're going to get to that in just a few minutes through this discussion. But initially, off the bat, LiveLeanPro has got some of the most amazing reach into the planet. And as we've discovered this in this journey about what we've been doing, what we've been creating, which is super exciting, and we'll reveal all on this this podcast, is that we have got this dream team that has the access to the highest caliber level athletes, business people, superstars, A-list celebrities, the most successful people on the planet, and also all the rising stars that are coming through. And we've been building this entourage of podcast material and athletes in our minds as we're heading through. And so I'm really proud to launch LiveLeanPro's podcast today. And I'm even more excited to have the first guest, which was just such a privilege. Now, this first guest is incredible. So Stephen Wong is a man of super caliber. 30 years he spent literally in the film industry. He started off in the high-level martial arts all the way through the very highest level you can possibly get. So literally, you're actually looking at a ninja without his headgear on today. And taking this martial art career right to the very, very end of its possibilities, and practicing today. So 30 years plus on that. In terms of business, he's a marketing genius, global activations, has several massive relationships and partners of many years. There's actually too many things to list off. So I'm going to do a high level and let Stephen get into a bit of detail about that. But the highest level celebrities, athletes competing at the top end of female and male fitness sports in the world. He's going to reveal that as well, which is where we're learning all that technology from and applying things in real time in terms of diet, training, nutrition, which is what we're all about, to the millimeter, to get those incredible results with training and everything else like that. Not only that, he's just now launched his first, well, it's really a first time, it's a look behind the curtain of Stephen J. Wong's successful path and basically system for success for the first time ever. So, he's going to reveal a little bit about that as well, which is super exciting. And he's got an awesome combination of family and lifestyle. And, I don't know how he fits it all in. I really, really don't know how he fits it on, but he's managed to just really shape this equation perfectly. And he's a partner in LiveLeanPro, and I'm proud to call him my friend, dear partner in this project. And it is a super exciting moment to introduce Stephen Wong. So take it away, buddy.
Wow, that was impressive. First of all, it is an honor to be the first guest on this show, first guest of all time for such a legendary product, which the world will realize in the upcoming weeks how legendary it truly is. But I would be remiss if I did not mention that your introduction is incredible. Like, I need to hire you as my PR person, because not only are you well-spoken, but man, you hit all of the nails on the head. It's always a treat to listen to you, but an honor to be on your show.
Oh, thanks, Stephen. Thank you so much. It's as you know, we've been building this for really 2 years now, and then roping all the best of the best in. This is literally it is a dream team. It is such a dream team. And we're heading into the final weeks. So that's what this show's all about, is really revealing behind the curtain as we're heading up to this launch, which is going to give, people access to, I guess, a company, right, that's going to do something tremendous to the industry. Where, you guys as viewers, they get to see behind the curtain and get to meet us, the conversations we're having. So who's developing the product they're eating? What's behind the nutritional panel? Who's in that tub? Who's in that powder? Who's in that protein? Who's in that supplement? I've spent my whole life taking supplements, and I've very rarely I've probably met less than half a dozen people who make it. And I've been searching for these people because I've been making things as well. And it's really tough to get somebody you can actually know who's making the product for you. This show is going to be a platform to let everybody know who's actually behind this incredible product line.
Well, and you touched on it very succinctly with it being a dream team, because that's what really excites me. There's two factors. Number one is obviously we've all been taking LiveLeanPro, HP 100. We've been taking it for years now. We know behind the scenes how good it is and how much superior it is to everything out there on the planet. But when you combine that with the team that we have, literally all the best people in every single capacity, whether it's our marketing, our social media reach, our videographers, our film team, our photographers. You mentioned global activations with our partnerships around the world. That's what really excites me, because we have people that used to do work with Facebook and Google, and people who've won international awards, and people who have increased revenues by $1.2 billion in certain projects. And I'm sure you'll touch a little bit more on that, but every time we get on our Zoom calls, and sometimes our Zoom calls are 3 hours, 3.5 hours. It just flies by, because you almost want it to be longer. It's almost like we can't cover as much as we want to, because each person on our calls are just so knowledgeable, and it's amazing. It's amazing to be part of this team, and I can't wait to launch.
Oh, I'm in. So, Steve, I just want to get into a little bit about you at the moment, because when I first read your bio, the initial bio, and we got a tremendous mutual friend, brother, and a top businessman. I think Kiwi Clint is probably one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. And I can say that about every team member. Yep. But his ability to harness the team with business acumen that is free flowing and motivating and strong, that really provided this foundation from the get-go. And he'd been traveling around the world. This is a crazy thing. How we met you is he's been traveling around the world for a decade at the highest level, all these different caliber events and filming, photography and videography, and meeting the top echelons of industry, health, fit, just everything. And it's almost like a never-ending story. He's gone and picked the gems out over this decade or so of going around the planet, these gems, and all these gems, about a dozen of them, are now just combined at Voltron for this project. Yeah. Which, when I first read your bio, was just mind-blowing. I was lying back thinking, all I've done is really focus on one thing, which is this manufacturing process and this powder and these supplements, and really got it down to so it's really stayed on one activity. And there's a lot of other activities I really passionate about, which high level sport, competing and bodybuilding, all those sorts of things as well, that I forego those in a sense, kept training really hard, but I just focused on this little thing. And when you focus on one thing, you kind of think it's not that special, but then it was, kind of when we presented it, it just became evident. It was a super special moment to share that, and then to share it and be so humbly blessed to meet yourself. Your bio blew me away. So I just love to get into a little bit of background on you, and just take it away from the start. You'd start with the martial arts, because I'm really passionate about that. I did a lot of nightclub security and professional security for 18 years. Yeah. So I was like a big baby that learned how to walk, and then I learned a little bit of expertise in one tiny little microscopic area of all the martial art possibilities to survive, I guess, New Zealand in the 1990s. So I got a little bit of understanding about martial arts as well. So fantastic.
Love it. And obviously you do have a phenomenal understanding of how to sculpt a physique. So let me just take this quick opportunity now for you to, number one, show off that physique, that shirt, amazing shirt. But at the same time, I was just saying before we start recording that when he was showing me when Glenn was showing me the back of his shirt, I was saying we could literally project a movie on his back. That's how big it is. But please, let's just show us that shirt, because it's unreal.
Oh yeah, so we got a little we're gold and white. We've got a little, we've got a little Pegasus on the side. But we also got the back.
Oh, look at this in 70 millimeter right there, 70 millimeter widescreen. There's no joke. Let's just play your favorite movie and just project it right on Glenn's back right there.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
You're too kind. I could always do a few more reps, a little bit more weight. But yeah, it's a disease, man. It's the best disease I could possibly have caught.
Absolutely.
Training.
Absolutely. So to digress, martial arts, in some way or another, I can trace everything that I've done, every opportunity, whether business or personal or family, everything traces back to martial arts in one way or another. And it's been the staple. It's been the backbone of everything that I do. I started when I was literally 7 years old. And, I just, growing up in a small white town, Caucasian, I should say, a white Caucasian town in the suburbs of Toronto in the 70s. Obviously you're different. You're different than everyone else. So I figure, I better, even at a young age, better know how to defend myself if and when I would need to. So I started pretty young. And in today's day and age, people are starting much younger. But back then it was pretty young. And, I fell in love with it. And I started out with Taekwondo and, achieved a pretty respectable level of Taekwondo. And then I moved on to Shotokan karate, dabbled with a few other martial arts. So got my black belts in those. And then it was 1986 when I really started getting much more serious. I thought I was serious before, but I was with a few clubs that was a lot of the history and the technique, doing the forms and doing the katas and doing the sparring, but a lot of non-applicable stuff. And then I moved one city over. I moved to Oakville, Ontario, which is right beside Burlington. Again, probably about 35 kilometers from downtown Toronto. And I was looking for a new club. I'm young, I'm a teenager, I'm pretty cocky. And, I won national championships and won some big tournaments prior to that. So when I moved to my new city, I basically went to every club and I challenged the instructor. I walked in, challenged instructor.
Classic.
Yeah. So if I'm going to learn, I got to learn from someone who's better than me. I'm not going to learn from someone I can beat. Right. So I literally went through every club. And so I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And then I heard about this Kung Fu club. I didn't know too much about Kung Fu. Again, I was more rigid, very rigid, not a whole lot of flow, but very powerful for my size and for my age, especially. And had very dynamic, very good kicks. My kicks were the bread and butter of everything I did. Taekwondo, obviously, focusing a lot on kicks. I was very, very fast. So someone told me about this one club where, it's kind of an underground club, not big storefront, no big glasses in the basement, kind of a sketchy area. Right. So I'm like, okay, like a basement, not of a home, of a commercial building. So it's still a real business. And someone said, okay, go check that club out. I'm like, okay, well, check them all out. So I may as well check that one out too. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to go kick his ass too, is what I'm thinking. Right. So I go down and, it's like a doctor's office and a few retail. It's a fish and chips place. So I go downstairs and it's very bare bones, right? No windows or anything. And I walk in there. It's just two people, older gentleman and a guy that was maybe a couple years older than me, a white guy. So I'm like, okay, I'm interested in joining up, but I would like to know a little bit more about your club, and I'd like to spar with the owner. And then he had his cup of tea. He actually had a cigarette in his hand, so he smoked. And he was half Chinese, half Filipino. So He's like, okay, you spar with him and then you spar with me. I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking I'll be sparring with you in about 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half, right? That's what's going through my head. So, and we get going, and this guy's pretty good. I can't really get too much contact. Normally, my kicks were just blazing fast at that time. Had some signature kicks that were back then were pretty much undefendable. Now it's a different story with MMA and everything. But I was very confident, and I'm just not clipping this guy, and he's not doing a whole lot. He's coming at me, and I'm feeling he's quite powerful. He's not really nailing me too much either, but I'm feeling when we're getting in close, I'm backing off. I want my distance now. So I can feel that he's probably got an advantage in tight. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to engage too much in tight anymore. His hands are strong. His blocks are strong. His grappling was strong. And he was catching me a bit and throwing me a bit off balance just by the way he was engaging in tight. And I found it after because although this club was it's called Hungar or Hung Kun. It's a 5 animal style. So tiger, snake, leopard, dragon, and crane. But we also studied a bit of Wing Chun there. So Wing Chun in close is just deadly. So when I get in close with him, I'm like, I'm a bit handcuffed. I'm thinking, okay, well, this is going on for a bit now. I can't hit this guy. We're probably 5 minutes in sparring. The way I was trying to spar back then didn't last that long, right? I'm just trying to finish it. So I'm like, what is going on here? So then he wasn't throwing any kicks. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm just trying to take his head off. I'm like, that's it. I need to finish this guy. And so I'm lining him up and everything's headhunting now. And I realized after I threw a high kick and he literally threw a kick under mine and lifted me up off the ground with contact to my groin. And there's no mouth guard. There's no gloves. We're wearing our shoes. There's no headgear. This is street style.
Right.
This is street style.
Yeah,
And
wow.
we're on a carpet that's a layer of I don't know what, like 2 mil carpet on top of a cement floor. So he lights me up and down I go. And pain like I've never felt. Taekwondo and karate, we're not allowed to strike in the groin. We're wearing jocks. You know what I mean?
Right. Totally different.
Totally different. This was like a street fight. And then I realized after I was able to get up off the ground after about 10 minutes, I realized I'm like, first of all, he set me up for that. And secondly, this is a real game. It's not a game. This is a real deal here. And then that's when I thought, okay, this might be the club. And then at that point, I didn't even bother challenging the head instructor. I realized I'd found my club. And that's how and then when I started coming to classes, that's when that was just a little taste. I realized that, I basically had to start. There's no belts in this club. I came in with my black belt on and everything, right? Got all my stripes on my belt, and he's wearing track pants and a t-shirt. So
this is a movie. This is a movie scene.
We left our shoes on. I'm like, let's go. So then after, when I joined the club, I realized it's like starting a white belt again. Even though a lot of things I was technically stronger, kicks for sure, far superior, but street effectiveness, these guys are killers. So after probably about 2 years with that club, I stopped having to pay my fees. I became an instructor. And then there were 5 of us that were instructors, the head instructors of the club. After my main Sifu, we were the 5 instructors underneath him. And we created a powerful team, a team synonymous and analogous with the LiveLeanPro team in the martial arts world. It was just it was deadly. So that's a little bit of the background of how I started, I will say. And at that point in time, I've been in it for, I don't know, 10 years, still training every single day, no matter, I'm working 20 hours a day. 20 hours a day, I'm sitting here or I'm doing activations or, I'm, working, but I find the time to train. I have a full Olympic gym in my basement, Olympic bumper plates, power racks, 4 sets of cables, plyo,
Wow. Yeah.
everything, you name it, and my martial arts stuff down there. So every day, that's something, like you said, you mentioned addiction earlier. This is what it is for me.
Yeah, that was my point actually. So no matter what you're doing, you've just got to get that little window. It might be, it could be an hour, could be half an hour, could be 45, could be a full blowout, but it's got to be something, right? It's just, people say, I had a comment on Facebook the other day, who said, well, it wasn't a terrifically, it was kind of a great comment, and we were sort of talking about this lockdown stuff a little bit, and I've been putting out my thoughts, and an old high school friend, we grew up together, and he said, so what sort of crap are you putting in your body now? So he's like this. He's a straight up guy.
Yeah.
You still just out of interest. So we were talking about COVID-19, and he just came in with this about supplementation and then he just left it for quite a few hours and just didn't really even respond to the question until a bit later on. But I just thought, well, it's interesting that all this is going on, and just a little snippet was, we've been, I'm in my mid-40s now, 45 actually, just turned last weekend.
Looking like young blood, looking like you're 25. I love it.
Yeah, I'm I'm just kicking and screaming, man. I'm kicking and screaming till the sun sets, bro. Just
love it. Indeed.
And it just really got me thinking, well, you know what? It's one thing that at least is in, that's what I've done with my life. And even there might be a little obscure comment out of the blue that just sort of snapped us together from childhood to now, and that's how he kind of recognized me in his really raw way or whatever,
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of quite endearing without complimenting or anything. It was just like, what sort of crap are you putting in your body still, as if, his perception is, what are you doing over there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And part of that addiction to, actually interesting, I just want to touch on the Wing Chun, Stephen, because when I started doing, I was always into martial arts in some form or other all the way through, even just copying Van Damme out on the bag at home for not hours, days and weeks, and just getting this one kick to the point where it feels so sweet that I could feel like I could kick the bag off the chain. 12, 13, 14, 15, all the way through. And I was naturally skinny in high school. I was actually skinny. And Len, they used to call me Lurch when I first started lifting weights. You wouldn't believe it. Yeah, Lurch, because I was 6'5" and 73 kilo. I used to play professional cricket. So
wow.
I would come down from, I'd come down with a big height, the cricket ball, and try and take your head off with it. But I had this this high level of competition blood running in my veins from probably my father, and then I had this injury. I can touch on that a little bit later, but I had a life-changing injury. So no more cricket, and then it was all about repairing the body. And I had and my father passed away all within the same period of time, and I had a huge fight on a train station where I was nearly, put it this way, there was 3 gang members and patch or wannabe gang members, 3 of them, and me and my girlfriend. And it was definitely, I could have walked away, but when I wanted a cigarette light, I stepped into it. Let's do it. You want a light? Yeah. 3-on-1. Anyway, they won that for sure. I woke up in hospital, and they were actually, they were beating me for about 7 minutes before the police actually arrived. The taxi lady saw the fight, called the police, they called the security arrived. It all went to court.
Wow.
And I was in our hospital for probably a month or 2 months. But the sad thing was that, the sad thing about this is that someone lost their life 2 weeks later out of that group of us. So out of the 4 of us, someone was supposed to pass in this exchange, and it wasn't me. I held on for some reason. And the Hemi Kohu, 17, same age as me, tough boy, young man. 2 weeks later, got his push bike, rode it out onto the same stretch of highway, not more than probably 2 kilometers away, and got hit by a sheep truck. And crushed under the wheels. Yeah. And so, there once was, 3 of them, then it was 2. Yeah. And anyway, I ended up in the end, it became so crazy. I ended up defending them in court. I ended up trying to prosecute them in court, but also I was trying to beat them up in pub and as well. I was chasing them. They were chasing me. It was a whole thing. And my father passed away, and I'd had this injury. So those sort of 3 events happened within 6 months, and it was very easy for me to then I built myself up with weight training, and I started out, really lifting heavy and hard, and I quickly got into some low levels pharmaceuticals, and I built this tremendous physique from being broken from this stroke or neck injury. So it's kind of this paper mache body that I built up, and I had a bit of a attitude adjustment. And so the attitude was right for this high-end security role that in Wellington in the 90s I couldn't imagine a more rough, tough spot in the Southern Hemisphere at that time. So I went about all the different styles and techniques to keep myself safe. My heart beats 300 beats a minute, and we've got an island culture. So we've got Samoan, Māori, Pacific Islander, we've got Tongan, and then we've got the hybrids, we've got the whites, they're all mixed up as well, the hybrids and the half castes, and it's an island culture. So it's very punchy, and it's back then very normalized. So there was just the way that the males dealt with each other was in a physical way, and it was a pecking order and a kind of respect. And New Zealand's famous for rugby union or rugby league, and big strong boys, martial arts, boxing. It's either playing high level rugby and boxing, or boxing and martial arts to some degree, and even if it's nothing, it's just plain old being a tough guy. So to keep myself safe and to get myself on top is like, how hard do you go? How do we get through this moment? How do I win this moment? But also, how do I semi look after them but still win? Tough sport, man, that one. Tough sport.
No doubt.
And I learned the basics of Wing Chun, pulse punching and power punching, and the breathing from a friend of mine, Graham. And when I saw him strike a guy one day, just short strike, brought down the first guy, security, the second guy, and he did it from so close, and he did it from a passive position as well. So he was being passive and demure, and just got him right there, and poof, and it was just,
it's amazing.
It was over. It was like poetry. And I was like, where's all the kicking and screaming? Where's all the throwing and the punching and the grappling and where's all the heap? It was gone. And it was such a gentleman. It was like a movie, And so he showed me this, taught me all the drills that go around it, the breathing. And then when I started, it's like a baby. You're falling over your feet. But I was getting to a point of little bit of proficiency, and that's what really gave me confidence on the front line, was in these real moments where you once somebody could get hurt for sure, nightly. It just gave me the ability to relax, simmer everything down a little bit and get it on my terms, and then also be able to execute something that really worked really well.
Absolutely.
And it didn't cause too much devastation. So it actually made me feel a lot more confident, and it gave me kind of the security blanket. It was almost like wrapping up on a warm night with this technique that I'd learned, and keeping me a little bit safe and secure. So it gave me a lot more confidence to be more relaxed as well, rather than sort of the guesswork of how can I combat this guy on, the kicks and punches, compared to, let's talk to this guy. What's going on here? Because I can get close and I can feel comfortable.
That's right.
I didn't go to a club to pick that up. Graham used to just train me down in the garage at my place. And I just picked up all the techniques and just picked them up from him and learned them organically. Till I got to a point where I felt confident in a physical environment. So I really know the power of Kung Fu, and I've seen it in action from a real, somebody who's incredibly proficient. Just wow. And I used to think to myself, I'm never going to be able to move like that. It was so poetic. So I just adopted my version of it, which got me through to my next paycheck every week.
Absolutely. And I've done a lot of martial arts, and there's so many forms of Kung Fu, but I always keep on going back to some form of Kung Fu where, in my mind, in my opinion, it's the best martial art. There's still a lot of things that I took from Taekwondo that I would never learn in Kung Fu, which are invaluable. But if I had to pick one, Hungar style, the 5 animal style, was just for what you're doing, like a nightclub, for example. It's the best. Combine that with a bit of Wing Chun, combine that with Wushu Kung Fu, and then you're gonna get those Taekwondo kicks. Get some very acrobatic athletics involved. But like I said, when parents or my clients are asking me, well, what martial arts should I take? I always either go back to Kung Fu or I do some hybrid, a mixed martial arts of some form. Back then, there's no such thing as mixed martial arts. Everything is all, the Kung Fu guys don't train with the Taekwondo guys. They don't train with the karate guys. And then there's all these different types of karate. There's a couple types of different Taekwondo and hundreds of different types of Kung Fu too. So they're all very, very distinct. Whereas now, I think the people training martial arts now they're really lucky. They're really fortunate because they're so well-rounded. And like you said, that nightclub environment. And that's funny. I didn't even know that you did that, because it's another commonality that we have. When I was in high school, I would work 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. every single night as a security guard in my last year of high school. So back then, there was a grade 13, which is called an OAC here. And a lot of people go back for grade 14, even though I graduated in grade 13. There's a picture of me on the wall from graduating my OAC year. All my friends went back to go play sports or whatever. And, we didn't really know what we wanted to major in university. So I went back just to take like auto shop, machine shop, take some fun things, electrical, and learn some, real life skills, have fun with my friends still before we all parted ways into our respective universities. So I worked from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., go home after as a security guard, as a licensed security guard. And then I'd go home, get quickly showered, and then go to school. So school started, I think it started at 8:15 or whatever, to about 4 or quarter to 4. And then come home, take a quick nap, literally go to my Kung Fu club, train, and go to work. So I did that as a cycle before I went to university. And when I went to university, I took crime and deviance as my major, and my double major, my second major, was computer science. And
Interesting. Wow.
While I was doing that, so I was licensed as a security guard in high school. Then I got licensed in university. I got licensed as a private investigator. So I did a lot of the PI stuff, but I also did close protection, bodyguard work. So people that would come into town, some high level celebs back then, I would do close protection for Janet Jackson, Bobby Brown, Chris Isaac, A Tribe Called Quest, some of these big bands and big performers. I was the guy that was leading the team, wearing a nice black suit. Sometimes I'd have 1 or 2 guys with me. Sometimes we'd have a full motorcade, literally full motorcade. Oh, and that was something that was keeping me gainfully employed during university to pay for tuition and everything. So, you speak at your nightclub and your bodyguard work, and I didn't know that. And now there's another common ground for us. It's just amazing how our team ties in so many ways.
Yeah. It's and it really, and it all underpins this, and underpinning all that too, is the to get any traction, get any results, and use your body for a high level. It's all about food, the right food, the quest of the body to look a certain way, and that quest, for me, And I could see that in a lot of athletes coming through, especially when I was developing in this bodybuilding field.
Yeah.
Is supplementation is a huge part as well, as to, and supplements when they first came out were really looked upon as this. I used to look at them like, wow, that's going to change the body, like that rap, especially the muscle tech stuff coming out saying that creatine was going to give us, 5 pounds of, we didn't know what his water weight then, but
I
5
tried
pounds in
all
7
those.
days.
I took all those. Yeah.
Yeah. Hydroxy cuts, lose, 10 pounds in 28 days or whatever, body fat. And it's really interesting that, when you take a product, the power in the placebo before the thing even kicks in is you feel better. As soon as you take it, you're vigilant with your dosage,
100%.
And you're vigilant with your training. You push it harder, expecting this, and you're looking, to see if little microscopic changes. And then, some products give you a little bit of a kick, and you can get them a little bit longer. But I think it's about a 2-week period, and I discussed this plenty of times before with people that would say it's about 10 days to 2 weeks. 3 weeks to 4 weeks is a really great product where it's working for you, and you can really feel that synergistic effect. But then there's this kind of intuitive default mechanism where we all of a sudden skip a couple doses. We better take that fat burner because we bought it, to I've lost interest. And I reckon there's a lot of people that have got a lot of, a quarter of a bottle left of, say, fat burners or whatever it might be sitting in the closet. And I used to think to myself when I go into my friend's place and see tons of stuff that they weren't even finishing.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want to develop a product that is so good that everybody takes it and finishes it and love it, and it's going to be better than all this other stuff. It was like a really pure-hearted, endeavor that really started for me when I saw this occurring. So I actually distributed a company called LA Muscle Supplements into New Zealand. Started off pretty small, just dealing with some of the athletes. And I actually trained quite a few of the K1 athletes that came through in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, out of New Zealand. And I was the strength conditioning, supplementary nutrition coach. And so they're all getting pumped with LA Muscle stuff, which is actually some terrific products in that lineup. And that's really where I started to, not just my own personal journey, but I just love to see the effect on other people. And that's really what I felt passionate about, was seeing somebody go from, we had a guy called Lemmy Kohu who was going to be the next Mike Tyson of K1. Knocked everybody out. Beautiful physique on a Samoan boy, and natural bench press, week 1, day 1, 140 kilo. Like I wandered up on 60, and he just had natural coordination. I remember it. And next minute is 100. I think it was a first or second workout, or maybe the first week. He pumped like 25 reps at 100 kilos. I went, Ryan, who was with the martial arts side and the boxing side, I said, this guy's just whipped out 25 reps. I'm going to just keep putting plates on, man. And he goes, don't hurt him. He had a 200 kilo bench press in like 6 weeks.
200 kilos, what is that in pounds?
Oh, pounds. That'll probably multiply by 2.2. So that's probably a 380 pound bench press.
Wow.
Yeah, he's nearly 400 pound bench press. Yeah. And I think he was repping out. He did 1 or 2 at about 220. Yeah, it was like this little experiment.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that really gave me this bug, and because I developed myself to a point where I was definitely a larger than life character, and back in the 90s there, and I didn't have, my father wasn't present, he passed away at 17. So my guidance was myself. Yeah. And when I see these big bodybuilders, using testosterone and all those things, it was just a natural step we just went down that track without being too careless. A lot of the guys are competing at the high level, and that's why I didn't follow that track. I just couldn't quite feel comfortable following that recipe. Yeah. And I was getting great results doing what I was doing anyway. And I was always straight up with people. If they asked me, I would tell them straight out. Not to advocate doing anything like that for them, but to say, yeah, I'm not going to, how can I say that I'm eating a lot of, just extra protein, man, and creatine.
Just having lots of pasta.
Yeah.
That's what my friends in high school would say. The guys that were all juiced up, they're massive, they're bulging everywhere and, they've got no neck. And I'm like, hey, what are you guys taking? Oh, just eating lots of pasta. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You're carb loading, man.
You're just carb loading, putting that lean mass on by like eating lots of carbs.
Yeah, and some of the guys wouldn't even, they would keep that story going for a long time, Macca's, and telling people, and that was pretty secretive. And this is back when, there was only a handful of us really doing anything serious with our bodies. But I went into security when I was 20. And when I went in there at 20, I was, I figured I was getting paid. So I already figured, man, I'm going to, I'm getting paid. I don't know, you guys are competing. But you're not getting paid for competing, and you're not getting paid to really push yourself that hard. Like, lucky for me, that penny dropped pretty early. And so every weekend I was doing double shifts. I started out working from Thursday through to Saturday night, Sunday morning. I'd start at 7 o'clock at night. I'd work at one hotel till 1 o'clock in the morning on Thursday night. And then start the other one at 1 and go till 8 o'clock Friday morning. I would come home, I'd have a sleep I'd have about 4 hours sleep till midday, and I'd get up and do our banking, because back in the day it was cash. And then I would start work again at 7 o'clock again, or even 6 o'clock on a Friday night at the first hotel. And then I would start the late night club from, that would go till 7 till 2 or 3, and I'd go 3 o'clock till sometimes midday. And then I would barely sleep. I would probably have 3 or 4 hours dozing, and then I'd do it again Saturday night to Sunday. And then if we had a private function, or I did close protection for bands as well. So sometimes we would on a Sunday night, and on a Sunday after I've worked all those hours, the first time I ever fell asleep standing up, I was doing the back door to the stage entrance. So the band goes in and stays inside.
Yeah.
And there's no one in this room. And I've just got my back to the wall, back to the door. And I was so tired. I was like, and I just saw this one lady walking with a little trolley of food, just, and it just must have mesmerized me. I fell asleep standing up. My knees like buckled, boom. And she went from 20 meters over there to sort of appearing right here. I said, you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. She said, you want a coffee? I was like, I'll have a double shot. To look after keep me awake. So I worked like that and then I started doing Wednesday nights as well. So I was getting really great pay for a young guy. And that sort of, I was training Monday through to Wednesday into Thursday, really super intensive, so I could just work those double shifts in the weekend. And I rolled like that for nearly 7 years straight.
Wow.
And just pressed on in that direction. So that really did steer me away from being a full-time bodybuilder or really going and pushing that track. It was all about functionality and getting my money and pushing things ahead in that direction. So I thought about supplementation also in that same way. Instead of all in and not really understanding what I'm doing, it was very calculated all the way through. And I probably took one of everything. For a decade. Every time there's a new product, I'd take something. I'd try something. Just kind of accumulating this internal intuition and knowledge about the industry and about the body and the feedback. And of course, I was training a lot of people as well. So it just became a natural part of this kind of coaching element, but leading, essentially my own body first, and then sharing that knowledge with others. And then others come along that are more advanced in certain areas that, backfeed into you as well. And then you just internalize their knowledge. And it's just an amazing journey.
That's incredible. So obviously we're talking about, your bodybuilding history and your fitness history and some of your training partners. So everyone watching is probably wondering, what are you benching now, Glenn? with that
Oh, yeah.
massive frame. Like I'm curious, and I'm the type of guy. My training is all functional, right? To be more explosive, to be more powerful, to be quicker. It's not really hypertrophy training, so I'm not sitting there just pounding iron. I do resistance training, but my objective is not to look like a monster, like that you can project a movie on my back, right? But obviously, so I normally don't ask those questions. You know, how much can you squat? How much can you curl? I don't ask that. But for you, I'm curious. How much are you benching?
Okay. Well, right now, well, last night I did shoulders. I did shoulders and biceps in my home gym, in my my lockdown gym,
Yeah.
and I've got about 60 kilos down there. So right now, 60 kilos, I could do that all day. But 60 kilos with press ups after I've done about 3 rounds of all out, I can limit myself to like 8, 9, 10 reps of shoulder press on that. But yeah, so that's not really representation. All things aside, when I went to gym nowadays, you know, I can push a couple out at, you know, around the 140s, and without going crazy.
I got to do the 2.2 on this. Hold on. Inquiring minds want to know, and I'm one of them. So, sorry, what 120 was it?
I can knock a few at 140 on the incline. Yeah, flat bench press has never really been my thing, to be honest.
140 times 2.2. The 308 into the 3 category. Holy 300.
Yeah, I was just sneaking in there. It's not too bad without, you know, because it's just kind of like the body is now in a position where it's like a Ferrari that's a few years off. You know, it's a couple of generations ago, the Ferrari. It's not like the greatest one when you got a 25-year-old pumping it. And you just I used to put the foot down, like fell to the floor. And we used to train some crazy, crazy weights. I actually had a friend of mine, passed away now, sadly. Amazing physique. He's actually competed against Ronnie Coleman in the 2002, I think, Grand Prix in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Name is Justin Reese. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, man. Lovely guy. He was something like, he was nearly 10 kilos heavier than Ronnie Coleman in 2002. He was like maybe 8 kilos, which is nearly 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Heavier than Ronnie Coleman. He was close to 300 back.
Wow.
Competing, I think maybe 138 or something like kilo, which is 280 to even more, 290, nearly 300 pound. Massive, beautiful, sculpted, balanced muscle. This guy, 5'10", legs, had everything, calves, incredible. Just couldn't quite get the conditions at that top level that those guys brought from the US.
Yeah.
But no doubt, if he'd spent time around them, he would have been in the top 5 in the world. No doubt about it.
Wow.
But he stayed in New Zealand competing in Australasia. So, but the one thing he was noted for was strength. Stephen, I got to tell you, he used to go to Thailand and train for 6 to 9 months or 3 months spurts and come back because they could get all the pharmaceuticals there over the counter. That's where he went. You know, that's and bless him for creating such an incredible physique. I remember when he got back, he said, "Come down to the gym and spot me." You know, I said, "Yeah, sure." And I seen, you know, 180 kilos in the squat rack, and I was thinking, you're not good. You don't need a spot for that. Like this guy does like 300 kilo squats.
Yeah.
But he picks up the 90-degree chair, and he waddles over with it and puts it under the squat rack to do shoulder presses. And I went, how am I going to spot that? I mean, if you drop that at that height, I'm not going to catch that. That's 180 kilos over your head.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah. You know what? He pumped out about 6 reps on that, and I'll never forget it. It's the most amount of strength I've ever seen. And he did a 255 kilo bench press, I think, 3 times, which is, you multiply that by 2.2.
55.
Yeah. Serious, like incredible. One of these.
561.
Yeah. And not once, twice, and the 3rd rep come up. You're just watching, how does this human body do this? You know what I mean? It's just an incredible feat of strength. So I grew up around that. He inspired me to take my physique to the direction I wanted to. And he inspired actually all of Wellington City and probably New Zealand. He really sparked that bodybuilding movement for us all, which is, sadly passed away too young, 38. He really just kept his foot on the gas the whole time, didn't really take his foot off the gas.
38, wow.
Really, really sad. But that's what really sparked that high level quest for physique development, which, I turned and just related that to different sports and different professions and different physique categories. And and that's just my passion coming through. And then when I got to Australia, I had the opportunity to invent I got fixated on this protein ice cream idea. I guess that's the segue into how we got to this LiveLeanPro, this powder.
Indeed.
So for everybody who's listening, I didn't just meet Peter one day. Peter's our head scientist and one of my best friends ever in life. Tremendous guy. And I didn't just listen to him lecturing and then just adopt everything and learn it. I actually met Peter after 2.5 years of failed trials. And I got fixated on this protein ice cream. So I was focusing on a cookie, and then at the time, my ex-wife, she said, "How about protein ice cream?" Rang me one day, said, "What about an ice cream?" It was like a light bulb. I said, so the cookie just gone, and I just went like this razor focus on this protein ice cream. So I ended up rang up this company, Everest Foods, which was one of the biggest ice cream manufacturers in Australia at the time, big factory out in Melbourne, and producing ice cream and foods and everything. So I went out there, met with Russell, the CEO, great guy. Ran him through the concept. He said, "Yeah, sure, you can work with our lab tech here, and you've got the ability to, your trials are going to cost you money, and this is how it's going to work, and this is your operations manager." So I just started getting integrated into the operations around creating foods, going through the food standards, and creating nutritional panels from scratch, ingredients listings, and all these things. And it was a wonderful opportunity. I was so excited. So I was getting my protein, and I was combining it in this ice cream recipe. And this is 10 years ago now. So this is back before really any ice cream hit the market at all. And then I started failing on these recipes. Now, failing is a really interesting word, because I later learned that I never failed at all, not even once. I just kept successfully finding out ways that it wouldn't work, which is what I adopted later on. And so and the trick is with ice cream, and this is what the lab techs kept telling me, was you've got to cook ice cream to 84 degrees, and that's a pasteurization level, and that's a universal rule and law to get the bacteria down to safe levels as human consumption. It's a dairy product, but protein denatures and spoils at 64. So when I say spoil, it goes like, imagine trying to make ice cream that turns into a protein bar that tastes like peppery, chocolatey. Oh, it's terrible. And that's what happens in your protein bars. So majority of your protein bars, people out there, in fact, vast majority of the protein bars, probably I can say 99% of them out there, are all denatured protein. So they have a value of, yes, this protein is in the recipe when it went into the recipe. But what's happened to it during the recipe is come out, it's denatured protein. So it's actually useless. Yeah. It doesn't do anything. My recipes were spoiling. And so I would go back and do another one, and I get a higher end protein, something that's even more refined, hydrolyzed protein. And then I've got to a micronized level of protein, sourcing WPI, WPC, caseinate. I was trying everything. Then I started researching into the US to find out, if there's anything better there. So I was importing a few different protein blends there, just bringing them in and putting them through my recipe, but they just kept failing. And I started with 30 grams per serve. which is the holy grail of serves per,
Yep.
what you want to have. And I ended up going 28, 26, 24, 22. And I got down to, I think it was the last trial I did was about 12, but on the second or third trial, Anna says to me, just so you know, you can't combine those two ingredients under heat generally. And when she said generally, she meant not at all. She was being kind. She was like, you're trying to do something that no scientist will bother trying to do because you can't do that.
Yeah.
And she said, well, it's your money and time. What do you want to do? I just kept going, and it was lucky that I hadn't gone to university, and people said, oh, you must have been to university to learn how to do this. No, I just had a real burning desire. And I got the people that were a lot smarter than me in these fields to try and generate what I was after. So I've always worked in that capacity ever since. And she was really kind, and she said, listen, I can keep helping you, but now we can only do trials on a Friday. Russell's lost a bit of interest, and after 2.5 years of failed trials, I stopped. But I didn't stop. I stopped physically because it looked like it was just madness, which it was. And I just kept scratching my head every night. And all of a sudden, I just dreamed up this idea of pharmaceutical grade protein powder. And with this pharmaceutical grade protein powder, could I change the ingredient timing? Could I alter this pasteurization process? What flexibility do I have inside this factory? And I didn't have it. There's the rules you can't break on pasteurization processes. But based on the integrity, so I did some theoretical trials in terms of if we got to a bacteria count of X, could I do this? And I had to get it signed up by the CEO. Russell said, we've never done that. Look, Food Standards Code is going to need to know why we're changing this. Is it going to compromise the integrity of the recipe? And number one is food safety. So I had to get it all ticked off by Food Safety Victoria to be even run a trial and get permission to run a trial. But it was theoretical, but I still hadn't found this powder. So every now and again, I get these little moments of kind of brilliance where the whole factory comes alive again after 2 years of failed trials, and everyone gets a little bit of, oh, what's going to happen now? And I do a few more trials and they fail, or perceived to be fails. And then, I was sitting at home one day on the computer, boom, Peter puts pharmaceutical grade protein powder into a search engine out of the blue. I never met Peter. And it comes up on my computer screen because that's all I'm searching for literally 12 months. And maybe I was the only person on the planet looking for that. I ring him, and I didn't even see that he's literally 20 minutes drive from me, instead of being all around the planet and all this, searching around the whole planet for protein powders. He's 20 minutes drive. And when he spoke to me on the phone, and you've heard Peter speak, he's Romanian, and it sounds like a movie. It's just, it's pharmaceutical. I said, okay. He goes, well, that's how it is. I said, really? What's the bacteria count? Why? I said, well, I'm trying to make something. What are you making? And then our friendship, because I couldn't divulge what I was making, and he didn't divulge, so the technology. So he said, come out. So I drove down 20 minutes drive. He said, I don't give my powder out unless it's in tubs. It's actually illegal for me to put something in a bag and let it out. Well, it's potentially illegal if you fail with it or have to bring it back. I can't receive it. So back again, because it's just got a process of going out. It was really serious, and there was all these new protocols and language I was getting used to from Peter, even in the first 10 minutes of meeting with him. And he said, look, the bacteria count on him it's like 0.03 is the first number that I forget, and it's so tiny, it's minuscule. It's nearly at the level of you open a syringe. It's not quite at that level medical. It is medical, but there's a lot of there's a little bit of a scale to that. But in terms of food, it's void of bacteria essentially. So anyway, he didn't know this, but I had to take it to my food lab and read it with Anna. So I just standard process because I've got to assess this material because I've actually found something that we could change the pasteurization ingredient time for real. And luckily, I already had the permissions and everything potentially signed off in theory. And then I take it to the food lab, and Anna rings me. And after 2.5 years, she goes, "It doesn't read. What have you given me?" I said, "How it doesn't read?" She says, "Doesn't read any protein. I can't read it. Doesn't read on them in the test." I said, "Wow." She said, "Well, if it is pharmaceutical, maybe we should get a pharmaceutical test on it."
Yeah.
Boom, reads off the scale. It was like a eureka moment, incredible. And but little did I know that Peter had never had anyone test his protein like that either, because he's the one that does all the testing normally. Everyone comes to him because he's the father of it. But being naive, and which is, naivety is sometimes bliss. Then I go to the factory. I literally made that protein ice cream, perfect chocolate protein ice cream, in 48 hours, and I couldn't believe it. And it was all based on the strength and integrity of this powder, used to formulate a food through, strict dairy food safety standards, strict pasteurization techniques. But I was allowed to, based on the integrity of the ingredients, manipulate the ingredient timing and the pasteurization duration to create this ice cream that leaves the protein powder perfectly 100% intact. And you've got a biologically active, incredible tasting, so beautiful chocolate ice cream. And it's literally like the chocolate ice cream you get out of your supermarket right now. And that's how I learned. As soon as I realized this about HP 100, I came back to Peter. We were having ice cream, laughing, because he said, "The win deal is you have to tell me what it is. If you make it, you have to tell me what it is." And I laughed. I said, "Well, it's been 2.5 years. I wasn't even ready." It was weird because I wasn't ready to succeed. I didn't really see it. When it actually happened, I was eating it, and I couldn't believe that everyone was liking the taste. Oh, wow, this is, well, we did it. So it took a few days for that to sink in. And anyway, I got some samples, me and Peter having some ice cream and having a great laugh. And oh man, what a moment. And then I was just absolutely in love with and besotted with this powder that Peter created and the mind behind it. So him and I became friends from the moment we met, basically. And we really have never left each other's side for a decade. And I've just learned more and more and more and more about it. So my organic story about how I found HP 100 to be superior in every way, that's how I discovered the powder. So it's a very unique journey to get to that point. To say without a doubt, this protein powder is world class, totally world leading, and it's something you deserve to have in your body. Not just deserve, but lusting for and need. And I'm more than proud to. Proud doesn't even do it. I'm humbled to be able to be in this privileged position to even hold this powder, and with our dream team, and have you sharing the story of you, Stephen, is a really surreal moment for me, all the way around.
Incredible.
And it's a beautiful story. So for everybody listening, this powder has come from a very special place, and been around for 18 years, but discovered in the most curious, childlike, open-hearted manner, and to bring it to the people without any compromise whatsoever. In fact, the reverse of compromise, if you can get that. So, and that's why we laugh and smile about the opportunity, because it's just such an amazing opportunity, and a new level of technology, and really a totally new layer of protein technology, a totally new layer of physical performance and health benefits. And that's one thing people used to say to me is, "Oh, everyone's doing a protein, man. Like, it's so clustered." And I used to look at the market and think, no, it's so full. It's a desert, man. It's a desert out there. There's the opportunity to create an oasis. And that's what this nanotechnology HP 100 powder is. It really is the oasis in the desert of this status quo protein industry. And it's, it's well overdue for a change, and we're about to spark it. So I'm super excited. So that was a really long story to sort of get off the chest. But yeah, one that I'm super excited to get off my chest with you, Stephen, and be a part of this project, man. It's surreal.
Whenever I hear you speak about HB 100 and the beginnings and how the genesis of what we have here now, it just gets me excited, and I'm fresh out. I just had my last one. I still have the tub there. I'm fresh out of HP 100, but I know you sent me some, it's en route, so I can't wait to dig into that again. And really, what I'm excited, we're about 2 weeks from launch, where the public will get to try this, and it's gonna be. I don't think we're ready. I don't think we're ready for the amount of positivity that's gonna come from this. The amount of incredible feedback. It's gonna be really eye opening, and it's gonna be, especially for you, from you and Peter from the beginning, 10 years in the making. I've only been here a couple of years. You guys have been here from day one, right? So it's like you're a baby that you've nurtured and you've brought up and you've raised, has finally hit the pinnacle of their craft, whether it's an artist, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a PhD. For you, it must be something really special.
Oh yeah, Stephen, it's it really, really is. It's really hard to put into words. I just see people, smiling and really and laughing about how incredible it is, and looking at the powder when it comes out of the tub, and it gives us just such joy to know that when people put it in their body, it matches their belief system. So the strength and integrity and the pure-hearted drive people have got in any endeavor. It doesn't have to be the high-end athlete. It's being really proactive and passionate about shedding those kilos, or putting on the muscle that you never put on, or when you're a little bit older and that you need to hold on to it. So you're just beginning training at like 55, 60. It's that this is the powder that is behind you. It's the powder. This is the thing. It's literally, it's the same as oxygen. It's created with the same intent to be as pure for you as the O2 that you breathe. And Steve and I were just sharing before off camera before we got cracking about, we've always felt, and I felt really passionate about this protein molecule, or this protein nutrient, is that it's a default nutrient, right? So it's protein, yeah. And then people who say that to me, protein's protein. Well, yeah, it should be. And what we are seeing in the world today in terms of the supplementation, if I can compare it to all the different people that use protein powder. So, for example, I keep running to LeBron James. His name rings a bell. I love basketball. I played professionally for one season, got 7 minutes average game time.
Still at the highest
so
level.
For example, sorry?
I said 7 minutes, but it's still at the highest level. So that's,
Yeah. I got dunked on a bit, but I ran baseline and got a few points. Yeah, I was good.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got a for the actual real passion for basketball and all high-end sport, but it's like so the same thing. We don't have oxygen's not a layered in terms of quality, and that quality is determined by somebody in a shop. That LeBron James, he needs the best oxygen. Okay, well, and Glenn, you're not competing. You need a 60% grade or whatever. We didn't even know the grades really. We're just going to give you. It's less, and it costs less too. So your budget. Don't have to worry about paying that extra $10 more for the better oxygen. Don't worry, you don't need it. I want to pick up something for my mom and my sister's training, and my brother-in-law just getting back into it. Oh, okay, so we're going to have different products for them. So they're going to have different oxygen levels in terms of quality, right? Same thing going to steak in the supermarket. Stephen comes in and he's just got in there before me in the deli. And come alive. So all the porterhouse looks good. Oh no, that's Stephen's coming back for that because Stephen's at such a high level. But you can have the chuck steak because it's slightly less quality, but it's still protein. But it's going to do the job. It's okay. But your mum, it's not dog food, but It's getting close.
Yeah.
But just cheap. It's only $20 a kilo. So just grab that. Your brother-in-law, he's gone all right. He'll do the same as your mom. He'll be all right. So, but when you go to a supplement shop, that's exactly what we got. We got people recommending protein powders for all different walks of life, all different athletic levels. And you could hear, oh, you don't need that because you're not competing at the top level. You only need that because that's cheap. That's the saddest thing you could possibly do for any human body, is to give them a nutrient that should just be, protein is protein. It should just be in a perfect, harmonious,
Absolutely.
absorbable form for your body. And, the professional bodybuilder takes the same protein as me, Mom, Stephen, all you guys, and everybody out there. But I'm not going to look like our next guest that's going to come on the show. He's a massive professional bodybuilder, but I'm going to take the same product, because for me, I'm not going to eat 8 to 10 meals a day, and I'm not training with that vision in mind. And I haven't pushed myself in that direction. So I'm only going to create the body that I'm going to create with the protein that I need. This, 16-year-old ballerina who's at the highest level, going for the academy, she also needs HP 100 because, she only takes it twice a day just to recover. She doesn't want to grow some muscles. And then the same for, 55, 60, 70 years old. Just want to hold that muscle tissue, or just want to do something and increase the protein amount for the body because it's good and essential for aging. Well, HP 100. Why would in your later years, where your body needs the most, careful selective of nutrients, why would it have a low grade protein where over 84% of it's going to go in the toilet? So people, that's really that's really a synopsis of where our belief system is for protein molecule and powder, and how it should be viewed in the world. So technically there should be absolutely no other protein option except the best of the very best, no matter what you walk. So
absolutely,
that's part of our passion, part of our drive, and part of what we're bringing to you is to change, or bring to the people now, is to change the way you're thinking conceptually about protein powder, and thinking that something's not for me because I'm not competing or whatever. So we're going to change all that. And it's exciting because, everybody's going to have some access now, and access is really about your mind. If you think you've got access, you've got access. And if you're educated the right way, you're educated the right way. And it's really simple. So, super exciting, brother.
These are great times, my friend.
Absolutely. And Stephen, you've got some, another thing I want to quickly touch on before we digress any further. So you've got this incredible history of, martial arts, but passion for film. And not just a passion, but, directing films, creating films. And I've seen some of those incredible documentaries that you produced.
Oh, thank you.
And so that's really opened the doors to the top of the top A-list people to work with. And then compounding that is an athlete's roster, guys. And this athlete's roster, I'm going to get to know this really well, because I want to be over in the States and spend some time in Canada with Stephen and get to meet and greet some of these guys, because these guys are the heaviest hitters. They've got the most elite sports, across the US, particularly for ice hockey, physique development, you name it. So we just get a little bit of a storyline around that, Stephen, and it's, I think, really, really key to let people know what your day is like. Your phone goes off, your messages go off, and who you're rolling with.
Yeah. So like we started at the beginning, I was mentioning that everything has, I can trace it back to martial arts in some capacity. So I gave you a little background of how I got into my first real career, which was investigations. And I did that for over a decade. I got to the point where I had my own agency. I had 40 people working for me, 40 investigators. I had some pretty big contracts with insurance companies, with workplace safety insurance boards, and some protection, some undercover work. And it got to the point where I was removed from the action. So I had my agency and I was running the agency, and I would deal with the clients, and it was a very well-oiled machine. So I had my 40 staff, and it was very tiered. So um, I was the president and CEO, then I'd have a director, and then I'd have general manager, and then I had senior investigators, and then I had some actual entry level private investigators that would go out there and they would either do the undercover or they do um, the surveillances or whatever the case may be. So everything was so streamlined. I was literally working 8 hours a week. I had 3 Corvettes, brand new ZR1s and everything. I've been a GM guy.
One of my favorite cars of all time, bro. One of my favorite cars of all time.
I've been a GM guy like all my life, aside from a few exotics. But I always, even I drive 2 Cadillacs today. So always been a GM guy, and it got to the point where not my ZR1, but my other Corvette. It was a convertible, so I drive around, rack top down, enjoying the sun in the summertime, and thinking, "This is great. This is life," and it was great. I'd work 8 hours a week. Everything was so structured below me that it was a well-oiled machine. And after 6 months, it really got boring. I really got bored. There's only so much driving around you can do. So back then, we didn't have the luxury of Google and the internet. So my other major in university was, crime and deviance, and that was why I started my agency. And the other major was computer science, and I took that because back then we didn't have in universities, we didn't have, all these kind of the classes and the courses that we have now in universities, where it's so, no matter what you want to do, whether you want to be a video game developer, that stuff wasn't readily available. But I took computer science because I enjoyed the outcome of what computers did for us, which was, I loved being creative. I loved designing. So I went to a store called Chapters, and I bought like $5,000 worth of books. I just went through graphic design. I went through fundamentals of design, went through how to use Quark Express back then, and Photoshop, 3D Studio Max, all these programs back then. And I learned filmmaking as well. I bought all these books. I bought $5,000 worth of books. And I literally, from that day on, I read every single textbook cover to cover. And I got more and more passionate about it as I would read and finish every single book. So I started a design company, a graphic design company, and just on my own. So I started doing small clients, independent entrepreneurs, whether it's a guy who has his home improvement company, design logos, or a restaurant owner or whatever. And I just started doing small jobs like that, and that it started growing. And it started, I was doing a lot of print materials at that point. I'm working with a lot of big print shops. And then I started getting some publicly traded companies doing presentation materials, 6-fold or 6-panel presentation folders with inserts and die cuts and spot gloss and spot UV and all this, all this crazy stuff. So I got pretty heavy into the print side of it. And then I wanted to transition from that. I could see the trend. Again, my computer science background kind of gave me a little advanced insight into that. So I started looking to see the trend of website development. So I started doing website development, and I started doing some pretty decent websites. It was called Flash. It was Flash 3.0 back then. So anyone that knows anything about technical website development, there's a plugin for websites, for HTML websites. So it's called Flash. I started doing websites, like multimedia websites, back in the Flash 3.0 days. And I started like carving out a niche. So back then we're talking, I don't know what year it was. It's going back like 30 years, 20 years, something like that. I was doing websites and stuff like that were like $30,000, just a one-man show. So I'm like, okay, maybe this passion of mine has some legs. But I always wanted to keep on the cutting edge. So I was doing Flash before anyone did Flash. So doing a lot of multimedia, everyone's still doing their really archaic, boring sites. And then high definition video, 1920 by 1080 came out. And that's when I said, okay, I've learned about filmmaking. I was shooting in standard def at that point, but I want to be one of the first adopters of high definition. So I bought the first real kind of prosumer camera, where, it didn't break the bank. It was like 10 grand. It wasn't like a massive thing that was $100,000. I bought that and I started shooting high definition commercials, and integrating it with my Flash websites. And I carved out another niche. So I was one of the very few people that were able to do that, in the small size business up to 500 employees type of thing. I'm sure if you're like IBM or whatever, you're hiring these big agencies that were, 50 developers, but I carved out a little niche in the, under 500 employee type of companies. And that started really paying the bills. So I ended up selling my investigation company and went towards the film. This whole time while I'm doing all this, the PI stuff, the design, the film, all that stuff, I was still training martial artists.
Of course. Of course.
And training athletes, because even when I was a teenager, I trained some of my cohorts to world championships, to martial arts world championships, kung fu world championships, and have been by their side, and they've been by my side ever since. So I was doing that all along the way while I've pursued my actual career, only to have it all tied back in the last 10 years, where my film company, I started getting pretty established after those entry-level high-definition days, 4K, 6K, 8K, and now we're here, where I would say about 10, 12 years ago, actually about 15 years ago, I got my first big commercial was with Tim Hortons. So Tim Hortons in Canada is a very, very, it's like the Starbucks of Tim Hortons, or Starbucks of Canada. And,
Right.
their coffee formulation, their donuts, and everyone's addicted to them. So I got a commercial with them, and I came in as a one-man crew. They'd hired big crews and everything like that and spent a lot of money on their budgets. I came in as a one-man crew, made some really good money back then. It was like, for me, it was like incredible. And basically, I realized that there is a niche. So I started doing commercial work, and doing clients like, start with Tim Hortons, and I got Gatorade, I got a couple commercials, Volkswagen, LG, Doc Martens, and it started.
Wow. The list goes on now.
It goes on and on. While I was doing that, I'm training athletes at the same time. I'm doing, I was on, if you follow Ultimate Fighting at all, I was on the team with George St. Pierre.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Loved. Yeah. I was wanting to get to that. This is another area of passion for mine. The old UFC, man, because I used to be fixated about the Pride series.
Yeah.
And Mark Kerr was one of my favorite athletes back in the day to watch him.
Yeah.
And come through to 1999, 2000. So the internet came up. You could watch these videos on there, and I was inspired by him. And it was just incredible. So, and as of course, I later on went on to train some of the fighters and get the experience behind the scenes of supplementation and obviously training. And a lot of it was mindset as well. So I would be in there really resetting. I was trying to reset that mindset for that, because I could see these guys, a lot of these guys had never trained so hard in the gym before. So there was a lot of room for improvement. And then I throw a supplement in there, and next minute their gains were exponential, not just muscle gains, but strength and power, and particularly these explosive movements. Mm-hmm. And when I saw that, and same with a few of these rugby players that came off, were injured or had been demoted or just weren't getting in the game time they wanted, I'd say to them often, hey, listen, so 6 weeks of training, and Charles, a guy called Charles Smiler, who was really up and coming, it was massive kicks on him, and he was like 6'6" and just took everybody's head off in New Zealand at the time. Now you can do 200 sit-ups crunches. Now you can lift, 60 kilos over your head for 25 reps. Before you couldn't even lift 40. So
Yeah.
you see all these increments coming through, and that was a really great conversation to have a physical, physical transformation happening, and then to correlate that mentally with, man, so what round do you think you would be able to take the old child smiler's head off? Like the new child smiler versus the old child smiler. How do you feel about that guy? He goes, oh, blow him in the first round. I said, well,
Yeah.
so now you're raising the bar. So you've left him behind. So all these other guys you're beating, so now you can go up to the next level. And so it was really exciting to have that be like a horse whisperer in a sense in the year in that training.
Yeah.
And that was another highly motivating factor that, I just got so much enjoyment out of, to see people come through. So that's my fighting. And then the excitement of, them winning. Oh, wow. There's nothing better than your athlete winning. And then if they get beaten, oh my God,
I know it's painful.
you're just heartbroken.
Yeah.
It's terrible. But
Yeah.
back to St. Jean-Pierre, Stephen, this is a poetic story.
Thank you. So, with being by George St. Pierre's side for more than 5 years, got to the point where I was living at his house. So, Montreal is about 500 kilometers, 550 kilometers from Toronto. So I would fly in, and after a while, he's like, Steve, don't waste your money on the hotels. Just stay with me. I have a huge house. So I ended up staying by his side, and, every training session, like just literally, we're doing everything together. And then we thought one day we're driving after training. He's like, I know you do like the commercials and everything. I saw your work, and he's like, it's amazing. It's like, how about you film me? And actually, no, sorry. It was his training partner that suggested it, David Loiseau. He's like, why don't you film a documentary on me and George St. Pierre? And David Loiseau was the very first UFC fighter out of Montreal, Quebec, to go into the UFC. So he paved the way for people like George St. Pierre, Patrick. He's gonna be pissed. I can't remember his name. Anyways, it'll come to me. For all these, like, there's some big names that came out. He actually fought Anderson Silva. Patrick Cote fought Anderson Silva for a world championship and blew out his knee right in the middle of the fight, and like not from contact.
Wow.
Just like, it was crazy. So a lot of these big UFC fighters, the way was paved through David Loiseau. So he approached me. He's like, how about you document our lives? So I'm like, that's a great idea. So talk to George, and George says, yeah, you're with me all the time anyways. You're living with me. Just bring the camera out. So he gave me full access. Never did he. It was like, we're so comfortable with each other that I've got a camera in his face. He doesn't even think about it. He doesn't care. He doesn't even know it's there anymore. So we captured some beautiful footage. And I think that's a film that you're talking about that you saw.
Yeah.
Because after it came out,
Awesome.
I filmed it for 5 years after it came out. In Australia and New Zealand, it was picked up by Sony Pictures. It was Alliance Atlantis in Canada. It was Warner Brothers in the US, Globo in Brazil, Asca Elite in Germany. So every single territory, the biggest film distributors were putting out there. So it was quite a milestone moment when that finally launched after 5 years, and that really, cemented film into my career path. That I knew, it's gonna be martial arts, it's gonna be film, it's gonna be fitness, it's gonna be strength and conditioning. Those are always gonna be staples in my life. And like I said, in the last 10 years, everything's come together, because in 2012, I started my master's degree in film, and I wanted to do something that no one's ever done. And I was pretty well versed with social media back then, definitely ahead of the curve. And I decided to do my thesis. It was a 4-year application-based thesis on the monetization of social media using film. And I targeted towards the fitness industry. And basically, I created a model and a principle and a system of monetization to create passive residual income using this that no one's ever done. And I did, for my thesis, I showed opening bank accounts, I showed closing bank accounts, and I did not theoretical, I did a practical application, and I tested everything, whether it's my ad campaigns, my PPC and all that stuff, or my AdWords. I did all the content, digital content, split testing, A/B testing, everything to determine what works, what doesn't work, how you determine, how you build an audience, first of all, and then how you analyze the audience for each and every single person. You know, I had tons of people, tons of athletes on my roster. So I'd put the test to each and every one of these people in my thesis. And I literally proved my system by doing it in real time. And I showed my closing bank account that was proof in the pudding. So when it was evaluated, I was awarded the highest level of distinction. And it really, at that point, I realized everything has come full circle. I'm working with my pro athletes. I'm training my pro athletes, and I'm giving them a solution to create passive income, because in the world of competition, whether it's NHL hockey, UFC fighting, whether it's IFBB competition, you have a very finite, very defined lifespan. And sometimes that lifespan is short. Sometimes it's 2-3 years where you're competing, you're at the top of the game, and you're able to get a big supplement sponsor, for example. A lot of these athletes get paid in the physique world, get paid, the bulk of their salaries come from sponsorship. And what happens? What happens after that? They're not competing anymore. They lose all the sponsorships. So my solution was to create something with the brand that they have now, build a proper audience, know who the audience is, know what they want from you, and then give them that. Whereas the old school business is like, okay, here's what I want to give my audience. I have the best phone. Here's my phone, and I'm gonna open up a shop, bricks and mortar, go rent a place in the mall, and I'm gonna sell you that phone. Is it what you want? No, we don't know that. We don't know that. Now, so the way we do things now is we analyze your audience, get the metrics and the data and all the analytics and all the feedback to really understand who are they, where are they from, how old are they, how much are they earning, how many kids do they have pets. We know so much. We have so much data on our audience now that if I'm selling you something, I'm selling it to you because I know you want it. I'm creating something that you want, not creating something that I think is great. I'm going to try and sell it to you and push it upon you. So that's when that all came together. And now in 2016, I received my master's, and it was shortly thereafter I met Clint. And that's when I was exposed to HP 100. And I had tried everything, just like yourself, Muscle Tech back in the day, everything, all these chalky proteins that were just, you had to plug your nose to try to have this, and they caused bloating, and it was just terrible.
How about Joe Eater's muscle builder? I remember that.
Absolutely. So now
I made a mistake, and I got a natural flavor one day. I'll never forget it. By mistake. You know what? I couldn't flavor it, man. I put Milo in, I put chocolate, I ended up making it kind of worse. But that powder was the worst. But every time I had a scoop, I thought I was getting more muscle. Every time I had a scoop, I just imagined that as being liquid muscle. And that's the beauty in this quest when you've got this disease we were talking about earlier. This disease is so great, and all of the people every single person who's going to be listening to this is going to understand that feeling on some level or another. Even if you're just trying to get in shape for summer or just a party, you become momentarily, short, medium, or long term obsessed. You really do feel the power of these products and the placebo effect, and that drives you into the effect. And like you say, HP 100 now delivers that feeling you have when you first buy any product. Absolutely. That you hope it's going to do it. And now it delivers, and you know what, it actually, when we think it over delivers, it doesn't over deliver at all. It just delivers. That's what it just delivers. Over delivery, how can you over deliver the best protein supplement on the planet? You can, compared to all the other stuff, but we're only comparing it to what we know. So we're just delivering the best of what we can do, and it just happens to completely supersede everything on the planet.
Absolutely.
And the other thing too, Steve, it really became aware to us. We've had this for, I met Peter 10 years ago. Peter's been doing this for 18 years to our viewers now. So really 18 years, it's been down under, right? Hiding away from the rest of the world, and the US particularly has just really commercialized the industry and led it. It's 5 years more advanced than it is in Australia. But Peter developed this protein powder and has become more advanced than anything on the planet. So we've had this status quo, right? And we've been battling against retail. And, I've been up and down the eastern seaboard of Australia for 5 years straight, into every gym and every supplement shop. I'd wake up every day. I had this beautiful sweet spot in time. I wake up every day. I train at 6 with my fasted cardio on the bike. I was getting ripped in. Yeah, ripped. Love being really tight in shape. Smash out my hill climbs on the bike, 45 minutes. I'm talking hill climbs where I'm doing 45 seconds on the highest gear, flat out, where 45 seconds, the second run becomes 43, because it's such an honest, all out. The next run I can only last 43 or 42, 40, and I get down to the point I do about 5 runs and I can't make 30 seconds at full pace. That's how hard I was working on my sprints. So yeah, I shower and I wake up every day, get into my car, get into my van, stacked full of supplements with the best in the world. And I'd head out at the time I was in Sydney when I started that. And I would just get on my Google Maps and I would Google a suburb, and then I would Google supplement shops and gyms. That's it. And I would just go to the supplement shop, meet, greet, chat, leave pricing, go to the gyms around the shop, meet, greet, pricing, and just get excited about doing a taste testing or a presentation or talk to the PTs or anything. And so suburb by suburb, day by day, week by week. Sydney is a huge state. You got nearly 5.5 million people there. So I pretty much went through every single street, arguably in Sydney. And I don't think anybody who even lived in Sydney could say they do that. It's so huge. It's like trying to get across half of LA. So I was really challenging the entire, up to the Surfers Paradise, the Gold Coast and Queensland states. So it's like, combing 3 big states in the USA, back and forth full time. And so we really were competing with the best of, the biggest marketed brands in the world that you guys all know and have loved, and just so it's okay to fall in love with something else as well. So everybody just be open-minded, and you can park your other brands for a bit and just try this out. And guess what? If you try this, if you try HB100 and you feel like your protein is better, we're going to pay you a huge amount of money. We're going to pay you money. We want to know what this powder is, and we will literally pull this powder apart. And we'll assess this powder. We'll be fascinated by this powder. So we've had this guarantee now Peter's had it for 18 years. No one's challenged it in 10 years. No supplement company's ever come and challenged it to prove their powder's better. And no individual's found a product to be more superior in all the time that I've been with Peter. So we were heading into the supplement shops, and I was heading in there with that ethos, with that vibe, and I was being met by a wall of margin. So that's why this you should think, if it's so good, it should be everywhere. Well, it costs more to make it. Let me tell you that. It's about an 8-week process to make that's customized, re-engineered protein powder for you guys. And at the end of that 8-week period, it costs time and money, technology, know-how, and everything else. And yes, we've streamlined that as much as we can. And Peter's got it down to a perfect science, but it's unavoidable. So yeah, 8 weeks to produce this customized powder compared to literally powder coming straight in from Fonterra or the raw supplier, straight in the tub, wrap it with all your top favorite brands out there. It's basically wrapped. It's just been blended with flavor. You might go through a few processes where hydrolysis can occur. You might get some cross-filtered ion exchange, and ion exchange, people, I got to let you know, chemical process damages the integrity of the protein peptide. So when you see ion exchange whey, run a mile, folks, run a mile. And we've seen the data on that from scientists that he's going to join the show shortly too as well.
Very good advice.
Yeah, great little snippet. He gave me that. I didn't know that. And so all the favorite brands out there going up against these guys who had the big margins, they were giving the retailers in Australia, 45% gross profit, 50% gross profit. And I'd come in, and if I was coming to Stephen Sharp, and Stephen was amazingly open-minded, he would love the brand, take it on, but he goes, "What's the margin?" I said, 30%. Look, I need 45 really to push it. I go, okay, so 45, we can't do it. But he goes, look, you know what? I love it. And if you're going to push it down the gym and get everybody coming to my store, then I'll take 20 of each flavor or 10 of each flavor. So we get these medium orders, and it depended how it sold is how hard I worked to get it through that store, because everybody else who's walking in that store was going to get sold the biggest margin product.
Yeah.
No two ways about it. So the shop just wants to make money. And that's more to the point is, my point is really that, the customers, you guys are all coming in with this pure, unblemished belief system of training and integrity, and you're feeling around what you're doing, which is pure, very super pure hearted, but it's met by commercialization and total business, and money is the priority.
Yeah.
So your goals, your body's safety, your body's performance comes behind the margin. And the people that are revising on these products that look super knowledgeable, let me tell you, they're reading nutritional panels, and that's it. They don't really truly know what is in the product unless they make it themselves, and they know exactly what's going on in the factory with, are they cutting it with milk powder, corn, cornstarch? Are they cutting it with fillers? What else is in the product that you don't know about? Do you know the percentage of protein that's actually in the product? And that's the thing. It's that's the industry standard. And then we were presenting this amazing product, competing against that for real estate space. So fast forward this period of time, that's why we put together LiveLeanPro. We're just rewrapping the HP 100 in an internationalized sports brand now. It's going to cover off, lifestyle, fitness, clothing, anything you can think of. And Living Lean Like a Pro really is all about any sport, any physical endeavor, about making that elevated choice for yourself. It's not for our brand. It's not for our brand at all. It's you making the elevated choice for you to choose our brand.
Absolutely.
And so that's really where Living Lean Like a Pro comes from.
Well
so we're going to drop that into the States, biggest marketplace in the world, into the US of A, and we're going to give back. And that's how Peter and I feel about it too. And I think our whole team's really grasped that, is we're finally going to give something back to the beautiful industry that US has adopted, loved, nurtured, become obsessed with, created a world craze on fitness. It's all come from the USA.
Yeah.
It's the mecca of bodybuilding. It's the mecca of achievement across, from academia to sport and everywhere. It's the highest of the highest levels that are recognized around the planet. So it's a really holy grail moment, for us to be able to, as a team, deliver this in. And, when Stephen was going through, you were going through, for your masters and creating the monetization and assessment of all the metrics and things that go around athletes, and now adding that, stretching their careers now out to be able to monetize them and monetize their knowledge and monetize not just the limelight that they're in the limelight for, but all that knowledge during that time and after that time as well. Absolutely. to really lengthen that out and deliver value. So now that's the caliber of, one of our key team members of the highest highest levels, guys. So you can see now that this product is going to be nurtured into the US environment. It's going to drop like an absolute bomb on the planet. So we're absolutely pumped, man. We're pumped. Can't wait to do it. So
exciting times, my friend. And I can't wait for upcoming episodes where you're able to get some of the other stallions on our team, because our team is so stacked. I tell people all the time, it's like each person taking on a task or a role in LLP is the highest achiever on the planet, with the most tremendous portfolios and resumes and proven track records. So when we drop like a bomb, man, holy, stand back and watch. It's going to be a beautiful sight. It's, like I said, we've worked a couple of years, you've worked a decade to get to this point where we're 2 weeks away. And I'm excited, my friend.
Absolutely, man. No, it couldn't be better said, Stephen. It's a surreal moment, and being able to chat with you in this forum now, and this, this is like our home. We've lived on video, and for our audience, we've created this. I mean, I haven't personally been to the US yet, and obviously the COVID's on. I would have been there during this period of when we were manufacturing. We all would have already met. But we've done this remotely, so we've done this from in Australia, setting up all the production side and the underneath, I guess, the engine room, and as that's growing, the whole marketing story is all slotting in now. We've got the biggest players, we've got the best in class across all these fields, and it's and we all share equally in the proceeds as well. So that's something that everybody needs to know. We're all, doesn't matter what what part of the business it's in. And it doesn't matter what time the team players come on the field and sharpen their tools and start hitting home runs. We're all getting the same. We're all even across the board. It's this, it's really, I think, comforting to know, probably for the people out there, that this product's built with heart first. And we're all doing something completely different. Most businesses are run with a lion's share is being held by somebody or some entity within the business, and everybody's getting a little piece. And but this is really the definition of everybody rolling up their sleeves and putting in their time and their energy and their passion, and opening their phone books up. And I guess that's another reason why it's like moths to the flame. This flame has been built from real super pure-hearted endeavor, and there's just the most best in class that just come together like Voltron. So home run hitting is going to be not a problem, and it's from the bottom end, from the internet, from the e-commerce side to the marketing side. And I see my WhatsApp. I'm not in the marketing piece, part of the marketing team essentially. So I'm going to sit across it and see my WhatsApp. I see 40, 50, 60 messages over the last 3-4 days, man.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
You guys are just knocking it out of the park. It's
those meetings are incredible. Everyone is so highly knowledgeable, and everyone is sharing little tidbits. Everyone understands what everyone's talking about. There's a lot of crossover, but each person will have a little nugget that they didn't totally know or didn't totally champion. And now everyone's sharing their wealth, sharing their knowledge. And like I said, when we launch, and we actually get this into the people's hands, and they can mix it. They can mix HP 100 for the very first time. Right when you open that tub, you're gonna notice the difference. You're gonna see the way it floats through the air. It's different. You're gonna see the way it mixes with water, with our nanotechnology. You're gonna understand that, holy, this is different. And then when you ingest it, and you realize that, when babies were born so premature, they couldn't have their mother's milk, and this is what they could have. When you realize it's at that level, and the highest level athletes are having it, and everyone in between, whether you're looking for weight loss, whether you're looking to build lean mass, it's crazy. It's crazy what this does. And you can you notice it right when you open it, right away. And then you taste it. And then you try it for 2 weeks. Man, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing for everyone to feel the results and see the results that we're all seeing.
Oh, that is so well put, Stephen. It's from, like you said, the second you open it, and that was, I mean, we first sent those first tubs out. it really just blew my mind with you guys feeding back on the experience you're having from first opening the tub. Sorry, my partner just rocked in. She's doing like me. It's my office. My office is part of the kind of the center kitchen area. I got this really cool setup in my end of the office out over by the water, and I kind of chose this part of the house.
Beautiful.
And
Stunning.
I could have my other little balcony out there, but it's not quite as homely and sharp and comfortable for me. So every now and again, the girls will come in and rock through the house with the kittens meowing, and we're doing a lot of things at the house.
Oh well,
so,
hey, this is our new normal during these crazy times, right? So I'm in my home studio, and there's the stairs, front door there. There's another office there, and there's a kitchen there. So once in a while, you might see one of my kids crawling underneath the couch to try to get through and get past.
Yeah,
so this is how we roll nowadays, right? We're all making with the current situation.
And it's all believable. We're all humans. It doesn't have to be a flashy, perfect green screen setup, which is oftentimes you think that's the most believable, or that adds to sparkle to the presentation. But nothing beats just being real and accessible. And I remember we're getting the feedback from you guys the first time, and the powder is phenomenal. Never seen anything like it. The stuff floating.
Yeah.
So when you open it up, the stuff literally goes up into the atmosphere, and you can breathe it in, and you can see immediately compared to your normal powder, which is like sand. This stuff's it's almost like air. You mix it up, it's like water. So every part of your experience, from when you open the tub to when you take it, and then just within a few days, all of a sudden my muscle soreness isn't quite there. Am I training as hard as I was before? Because I'm not as sore, because that's my indicator, right? A massive session, I'm sore. I've got to be a little bit sore, even though I've been training for years. All of a sudden, you watch that, it just nukes that muscle soreness or DOMS. It just gets nuked. Big leg session, it's like instead of 3 or 4 days sore, you're like maybe a day or two max, and it's bearable. And we've had hundreds of feedbacks like that over the years of, what is this powder doing? And then within 14 days, you can see it filling up the muscle bellies. You can see it increasing your body tone. You feel more contractile, performance in the muscle. You've got some more reps. You've got some more weight. You've got the ability that your body feels more sturdy on runs. I've actually, a lot of people who are running with it, we're always thinking about muscle, and we're always thinking about, the change visually on the body. But the feeling on the body as well. So I've had people who run a lot come to me and say, man, I just feel sturdier. I just feel like I've just got the tiny little bit more pop off the footpath. I just got a little bit more pop. Because the muscles are getting nourished and they're just getting stronger. So it's not even a science, really, man. It comes down to it's like a pot plant. You feed it, optimally, it's going to get stronger. And even if you don't even exercise the muscle, you're filling it full of all these nutrients. You're filling it full of the protein it needs. So it is going to be more nourished. It is going to be stronger. So everybody who's having a sedentary lifestyle, from the elderly to the aging, to still going out for your walks in the morning, absolutely you need this protein powder. All the way down professional athletes to the up and coming teenagers. And that's another area, is these killer little athletes coming through that we've been training since we're 5, 6, 7 years old as parents, into the top levels of sport. And Stephen's doing that as well, pushing his kids along, and they're funding height growth from just normal food intake. The body's got to grow, plus it's got to recover from this high-end sport, which is, and all we're doing, we've grown already, so we're just recovering from high-end sport or physical activity as adults. But children and teenagers, adolescents, doing two things. So, an HB 100 is the safest thing you can put into your aspiring teenager. Unlike all these other protein powders and creatines and other supplements, that's the other part, is that it's, number one, it's absolutely pure and safe. So there's multiple applications, and it's an amazing opportunity for the planet to learn this new technology.
Yeah, it's exciting. And one thing I will mention as well, Like you said, my daughter is 16. She's a gymnast. My older son is 14. My youngest boy is 10, and they're all having HP 100. And the thing I can tell you, my daughter has a severe peanut and tree nut allergy, and she reacts to a lot of the proteins that I used to have. And then now she will only take HP 100 because she's got a severe anaphylactic um, allergy to nuts and tree nuts, but she can
Oh, really?
safely takes HP 100. She loves the flavor, and because before HP 100, it got to the point where she just had to make her smoothie. She makes a smoothie every day, and she puts in her ingredients, but was lacking the protein. And then when she started trying HP 100, after we knew that was the most purest form possible and that there's nothing extraneous outside of the label, so she was able to try it and with confidence. And right away she's like, "Oh, smoothie tastes better even." So it's not only is it good for you in providing the nutrients that she was missing, but it's also highly, highly beneficial. No allergens in there. Like you
Yeah.
said, it's just the purest form you can get.
Yeah, and that's a huge part. A lot of the inquiries, of course, especially nowadays, where there's so many more. People are much more sensitive to
100%.
everything out there. Wow, and anaphylactic shock is that can kill you. That's a shutdown of your
Yeah.
of your breathing and everything. And it's a question we get asked a lot, and it's completely impurity free. What's on the ingredients panel is exactly what is in it.
Yeah.
And that nutritional panel is to the milligram accurate, perfect, with no expense spared on everything from flavoring. For example, it's not even 4% flavor. It's around about the 4% flavor mark. So it's so pure. A lot of these products are all. I've seen some of them at 30% flavor, 22%. I was constructing another brand for a friend of mine who wanted the flavor profiles really boosted up, this chocolate pineapple crunch flavors. Wow, that you couldn't get a flavor under 17% flavor of a kilo. So that flavor is not helping you. It's just super sweet and super nice, but it's not helping you. And so there, your integrity of the product. Yeah, you might as well just grab a chocolate bar. Yeah. And the other thing too, the impurities are just amazing. And I obviously got a story to share you with this ice cream too, Stephen, which blew me away. There was a friend of ours, her name's Michelle. She was in Melbourne when I was developing it, and she is so acutely disrupted by dairy that even a tiny bit on her tongue can blow her throat up straight away. So she's severe anaphylactic shock. And there's no time for her. And she was just sitting there watching us eating all this ice cream. And when we nailed the recipe finally, any lactose in it. I said, we stripped it all out of the base. She said, "Oh my God, but it is dairy." I said, "I know it is, but the ice cream base is stripped." Mm-hmm. And HP 100 has got the tiniest bit of lactose that is basically an integral part of the protein itself. But it's near zero. It's like way less than 1%, like about 0.5%, not even that. She's like, "Oh my God, I'm on the fence." She wanted to eat this ice cream.
Yeah.
One day she came to the expo and she took a tiny little bit on her tongue, just a tinsy. I've never seen a tinier amount. I think tip of her tongue. Walked away, came back in 5 minutes. She said, "I didn't feel anything." She had a little scoop. "I didn't feel anything at all." She ate our protein ice cream, and she's never eaten ice cream in her life because it kills her. Yeah. And that was like, wow, you never see. It's great to grow some muscles. It's great to see people performing high level, but you know what? Those stories are really that's the power of the purity of the product.
Incredible.
So we're bringing all that, guys. We're bringing that. So to our audience out there, that's what we're bringing, and we're bringing it in spades. So look out.
Wonderful. Wow.
I think that this whole approach that we're taking to the sports supplement industry is something that is not just revolutionary. It is a once in a generational thing that, like you said, takes 10 years to get to this point.
Yeah.
And the very fact that, for our audience, for Stephen and I to be pulled together by this commonality. And then we've got about a dozen people, and then we've got even a whole nother subset of partners of the world-class website, e-commerce. And these people are the people who will be talking to you as our audience. And that's all our messaging will be coming from our wider team. There's probably, the whole team is probably 50 or 60 strong in terms of all the staff that's going to be helping already. And so that's how valuable and how precious we're treating this opportunity, and how special it really, really is. And like you said, Stephen, I'm going to get each one of our team members on, and so that our audience is going to get to learn who's behind all this. What the intricacies, the personal lives. They're going to feel like they actually know the team, which is I've never seen that before. So I can't wait to have everybody on and have this great chat as we have today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me on. And like I said, it's an honor to be the very first guest. And I would have picked a handful of people before me, at least maybe 2 handfuls. But
you're too kind.
Thank you so much. And like I said, in a way, I would almost have loved to have waited until we launched so we could be talking about our launch. But like I said, this is an honor, and I will, definitely look forward to after we launch and seeing the guests on our podcast, on this webcast, seeing some feedback and the reaction. And social media is going to blow up. When people try this, that's all they're going to be talking about, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, whether it's TikTok. Is this going to blow up? HP100, LiveLeanPro, everywhere you go, it's not going to be us hyping it. It's going to be people using it, tasting it, getting the results. They're going to be telling their story. And that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, super well said, man. Super well said. That's what it's going to become. Yeah, an amazing journey is about to kickstart it. And I think that, definitely this, it feels like, we'd like to have had some tubs in our hand and be talking about it, but after the fact of launching, but I can really see the value now heading up in these next few weeks to sort of help build the suspense and bring everybody along for the journey. Once again, it's just another point of difference that we're putting in the mix, getting a look behind the curtain before the show starts. So that's
VIP
exciting.
VIP access right here.
Yeah, all the way. And anybody who gets an HP100 tub is literally getting VIP access. You open that lid, that's VIP, Bobby. That's VIP.
100%. VIP for the masses.
Oh, VIP for the masses.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down. That's perfect.
Well, you know what? Truly, to be honest, LiveLeanPro is giving everyone the opportunity to have the very best. Whereas, like you said, with that oxygen analogy, everyone should have the opportunity for this. And the industry has not been run that way. So now, I'm very proud to be a part of this, where we give everyone the opportunity to have the absolute best protein, the best supplementation, the best creatine coming out as well, the best protein ice cream. There's so many things that we have coming down the pipeline, and it's fun to be a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. Well, it's been an awesome discussion. We got heaps of content. It's just been fantastic to have you on board. And like I said, this is a ground up project, so it's fresh, it's new, brand new show for us. And it's been a super duper pleasure, my friend. I feel like I've just gotten just even closer and closer with you today over this last couple of hours. And it's been poetry. So I can't wait to meet you in person and come and spend some time in Canada and learn a bit more about your world, bro.
And vice versa. And I was thinking that I'd love to come see you in Australia and go visit the Gold Coast and go visit Sydney. So, we'll have to have a little off-camera conversation as to who's coming where, because I don't know, you're in one of the most beautiful landscapes I've ever seen. So looking forward to that. Thank you again for having me, my friend.
No sweat. All right, Stephen. We'll catch up. Thank you
All
again.
right. Thank you.
All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye.